The World Pro Racing GT3 Masters is fueled by Enemed and supported by Melita, Gaming Malta and Visit Malta.
Premiumbeat.com.
aħna saħħalsulhom il-fuel, ara ġej.
Wara ftit ġranet kellna rebbieħ ieħor fil-logħba tagħna kontra 30 sekonda bil-maqlub. Suqu fuq ir-riserva xejdu le mhix se tieqa'.
d-dieħla nkunu fuq pompa tal-Enemed oħra, nagħtu xi ħaġa oħra.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Okay, we proceed to the start.
Welcome to the second round of the World Pro Racing GT3 Masters fueled by Enemed. So, Adrian, can you tell us what you think about the first round we had?
I would suggest that we see some highlights first.
Sure, let's go.
This is the dawn of a new generation. This is where everyone starts thinking, looking, hoping, dreaming that they are at the top of their game. Everybody knows that this is not just like any other tournament that they have out there. This is an invitation-only event. You have to be the top of your game to find yourself in this sort of series. And these drivers know that they want to be one thing and one thing only. That is a GT3 Master. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to World Pro Racing. GT3 Masters start now as the green flag goes and we get ourselves underway. And drama in the background, I think a couple of vehicles getting turned around as Yuyovsky thinks about moving down to the inside.
Simonchik's going to have to go defensive. He's lost the lead. Kazdorp's through.
Hectic start for those mid and back of the pack. What a lunge from Brioni. I just saw Brioni there trying to go down the inside the back for 11th position.
Capit did go for the move on Simonchik and he made a mistake. He ran wide and Dylan's jumped them both. So Dylan's gone through into 4th place.
Restone Capit under that pressure. Simonchik, I don't think close enough this time, Vi.
They're both going to slip. They both go off. Raku, oh, big crash for Raku's. Dylan's in
Dylan,
pit.
and
He's
Honchik
not gonna
decides
make
it's
it.
time to come to pit. He can't make it on the fuel. Kastorp wins it at Silverstone. Yujovski will take second. Dylan will come home in the end in third position.
So, can you give us more details about what we have seen?
Definitely, this was a short clip of some of the action during the race. Definitely, it was an action-packed race. Let's put it this way. I would say this time it was very clean racing. Obviously enough, there were instances of certain situations that we had to take action and obviously issue certain penalties. But overall, definitely an exciting race. And who watched it, obviously enough, could have seen that even through our commentary. And a very clean race overall.
Oh, that's good. I heard that you have something exciting coming up soon.
Yeah, sure. We have a short promo to see, and obviously enough, then I give some more details afterwards.
Sure, let's watch it. So, can you give us more information about this championship?
Sure, as you have seen, it's a championship in collaboration with Wave Italy. It's one of the first championships we're going to do with them. It's with V8 supercars and different tracks we're going to have. Definitely another championship to look forward to. And the good thing about it is like the winner of this championship is going to take home a set of Impetus Pedals Pro from Wave Italy worth €1,500. It's good to tell our spectators to obviously follow our social media channels, which are Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram, and obviously our website from where they can get the whole information about this championship that we'll be publishing very soon.
That's good. So let's hope for another action race at the Virginia circuit. Stay tuned.
See ya.
Welcome to the place where hills rule the land. Welcome to the place where once one solitary tree stood over and watched everybody race. Now, the second round of the championship comes into full view. Defense for those who managed to get great results. Offense for those who are right up there and didn't get the results that they were hoping for. This is important in terms of setting your goals and your boundaries for the upcoming rounds of the season. Mid-season happened after this race at Virginia International Raceway, of course, here with the World Pro Racing GT3 Masters, powered by Enemed, sponsored, of course, by Melita Gaming Malta and Visit Malta. Once again, in the commentary booth, it's Jake Sperry, joined alongside with Caitlin Penny and Justin Mifsud on the cameras for us, with Chief Race Steward being Adrian Fagayo, and also with us. Brilliant work being done behind the scenes there. But we have to talk more importantly about the early stages of the championship. A lot of battling, a lot of teams looking to try and find that security. But security, Caitlin, from the start was singularity. A double podium to get them underway. I think they'll be very happy with what they're looking for the next round here at Virginia.
Yeah, totally. It was an absolutely masterful start to the championship by Yuri Kastorp and Martin Dirland for the Singularity Racing team. I say masterful with no pun intended on the GT3 Masters. title. But whatever the case, Kazdorp and Derland were joined on the podium last time out by and Yayovsky, and Risto Capit, the other AAA esports driver, along with Yayovsky, really wasn't that far back in 4th position either, so it looks as if it might be a scrap in the early stages of the championship at least, between Singularity Racing and AAA esports. Then again, we do have some more drivers who can very much say that they can challenge as well. Jone Simoncic, for example, was one of the fastest drivers last time out and claimed the 2 extra points you get for pole position. Can he match that again today? It would certainly boost his chance if he could.
It certainly could, but of course, Jone Simoncic has himself a very nice little accolade to add to his trophy coming into this week. Of course, he crowned himself as the Formula Sim Racing champion this weekend coming, so he'll be very happy with the results that he's been able to produce over there, and he can solely turn his focus to race pace, which he struggled with in the early stages of the race that we saw at Silverstone a couple of weeks ago. But there are a few drivers out there looking to try and make their name, try and get some good improvements in terms of where they were from 1 or 2 weeks ago. The big team that needs to find those improvements has to be FA Racing, because they were absolutely nowhere in the early stages of Silverstone. Both vehicles ending up with retirement. I think only one vehicle taking this grid for them today in 90th position, Ibrahim Al-Mubarak. So they are going to be on the back foot, and I think they're using this as a chance to develop here in this series more rather than looking at results, which I think many people seeing the name of FA Racing would expect them to be near the front.
Yeah, of course, that is Fernando Alonso's e-racing team. It's fantastic to have them with us. We do actually have some very, very high ranking teams here. Of course, Singularity and AAA Esports are already mentioned. They have been all over esports and done very, very well in everything they've entered. Avid Chronic Racing is one of the largest esports teams in the world. They're currently sitting 3rd in the championship, and they have something like 100 drivers in their academy. It's really quite incredible. Just below them in the championship as well, Edge Esports, they've been all over the place. They're very, very big in rFactor 2. They do a lot of single-seater championships, sorry. We also have GT Mega RPM Esports, who race with us pretty much every series and every race that we do, have been with us right since the start here at World Pro Racing, and they are still looking for their first point in this championship as well. Many other teams that I recognise that have been around sim racing for a while, although today I'm afraid we don't have the V Racer squad. However, they will be back for Sebring.
They will hopefully be back for Sebring indeed, but qualifying about starts as they all look to line up then on the end of pit lane as the clock starts and 20 minutes worth of qualifying starts right about now. Who's going to get 2 extra points to add on to their total and get themselves in prime position for racing here at a very, very tough Virginia track? This is effectively a private test track. You don't often see too much racing go on at Virginia. Sometimes the Virginia Targa becomes one of the big things to keep an eye out on over the course of a year. But more importantly than that, this track is a huge test. It's a roller coaster of a track which deals so much with undulation and cambers and every single style of corner. It's a true test of vehicles' dynamicness and ability to run themselves through the corners, which you're going to see here over the course of racing. And this is going to mean that those vehicles that maybe are a little bit more agile, are a bit more stable when it comes to these mid to high speed corners, are going to be so crucial over the course of this race. They know exactly what they need to do, and that is to get some good bank laps in the opening 5-10 minutes and see improvement from there.
Yeah, it's a very, very different circuit to Silverstone, the one that we were at just 2 weeks ago when we were last racing with World Pro Racing, in the way that this is much more hilly than Silverstone. There's much less runoff area. The curbs are more savage. You have grass by the side of the track, meaning you can't afford to make a significant mistake. The surface is also very different as well, the road surface, and rFactor 2 does program that. It's much less standard across the entire track. It's more kind of patchy than it is at Silverstone, and therefore the actual surface of the road will be more bumpy in places, aside from the hills. So yeah, very, very different from Silverstone. Far less in terms of in the way of straights as well. And that means the drivers are going to have to come at this from a completely different angle in terms of setup and driving style.
Exactly. You need to have a lot on the shock, so to speak, as Yuri Kasdorp looks to set his opening laps. A little slide as he heads through the right hook and then heads himself through this beautiful S's section, flowing himself up towards South Bend, turn number 9, out on track. There's very fearsome right-hander that comes up. Then you hit this next right coming up, and then the left, which at South Bend is always very difficult, and you need a lot of bravery to go through this corner close to flat out. You'll see vehicles braking at this point, dropping a gear, hoping to find some good traction as you head to the Old Oak Tree corner. Of course, famously an old oak tree being cut down in terms of the layout, which sees how much it has changed over the last period of years or so as track has looked to evolve and get more modern styles of racing involved into it. But Yuri Kasdorp now heading himself to the roller coaster, which always a very difficult part of the track to get down the hill, trying to hug the curb as much as possible, but you're being flung around with all the G-forces in the vehicle as you try and make your chance to get to the hog pen here. This penultimate 17 and 17A corner as they start running for the line. The first times are about to be coming in on the scoreboard, and we'll see who gets themselves up to the top in the initial stages, and Risto Capit holds advantage. 41.3 is the benchmark.
41.3 from Risto Capit, and Kasdorp is only just behind that, less than, well, about half a tenth of a second behind that with a 41.4 as it stands. Simončić currently third in the Audi there. In the ACR Audi. However, we do have more very, very fast drivers about to complete their first flying laps. Of course, Hani El-Sabdi was hugely successful, hugely competitive last time around, as was Jim Paresis. He was really challenging the top end of the order at times last time out as well. And both of those are coming towards the end of their first flying laps. I think El-Sabdi isn't on a timed one yet, unless he is. I'm not entirely sure, but Jim Paresis definitely is, and it's looking quick so far.
Yeah, Jim Paresis went out a little bit later than everyone else in the Edge Esports car. We'll correct you there. I don't think El-Sabdi was there for the opening race of the season. I think he is stepping in for a driver there at AAA, but here's Paresis now looking to try and get his run down this long straight, one of the big overtaking opportunities, which will be difficult to come by on this track because of the fact that the nature of these corners, the slow sections pretty much happen at exactly the same points in time. Most of the lap you'll be spending at high speed and needing all the bravery possible. A big slide then coming in from Paresis heading through the final corner. We'll see what the time is. Was very much up there looking for improvement, and Paresis, it's a late run to the line, finds a 41.7 and moves up into P5, 3/10 off of pole position. Your top 5: Capit, Kasdorp, Simončić, Caruso and Paresis. That's how they look. Then it's Mrozek, Vincenzi, Galea Brioni and Beavis. Your top 10. Change that now because Matt Beavis has just moved up into 7th position, which is good work in the Porsche.
Yeah, you're right about El-Sabdi. He's actually standing in for Yuyovsky, who came second in that car last time out at Silverstone. But you will be familiar with the name Hani El-Sabdi if you've watched World Pro Racing before, because he is actually a champion with us. He won the Porsche GT3 series that we did quite a while ago, so he knows GT cars well. We know that he's extremely quick in them, and I should point out he didn't just win that, he utterly decimated the competition. So Hani El-Sabdi here, I'm expecting him to be a contender, and that's exactly why AAA have taken him on. The team's championship in this series is arguably more important than the driver standings. That's where the prize money goes to the team rather than the individual driver, which is why it's important for AAA to bring in not just a replacement driver, but a replacement who can fight.
A replacement who can definitely fight indeed. Hasn't quite set a good lap time at the point. A couple of drivers who won't be making it to the grid do include Jaroslav Honzik, who's out with illness. He was right up there looking at a podium, but it did fall away after he found himself short on the numbers for fuel, which is going to be something very eagerly looked at here by all the teams. How good are you going to be on your counter, looking to save that fuel and getting out there and getting some good times in, as currently those top four split by just 0.2 of a second overall. Matteo Caruso also, he's looking at stepping into the vehicle as well in that Aston Martin. He stands in, of course, for Dearland, who is not turning up to this event, so they put Matteo Caruso in the car, and it's clear that Caruso just as much pace in the Aston, making his way down the roller coaster and pushing all the way moving forward. So we'll see how that works for Caruso, rounding the final corners, seeing what the is going to be across the line. And well, it's going to be a long chase, as it normally is here, over to that start-finish mark. And Matteo Caruso does not find him, so he will need to find another attempt out there as Daniel Kiss moves into...
Daniel Kiss, great lap from him there. He didn't have quite such a good race last time out at Silverstone. He was actually 9th in the order, so only picked up 7 points as a whole. But yeah, 5th place would really do him well here on the grid in that Edge Esports Aston Martin teammate to Jim Parisis, and currently 1 space ahead of him in the order. So Edge Esports, they're doing very well in 5th and 6th positions as it stands. Meanwhile, I believe we're about to see the first flying lap from Ben Schupanek, so we'll see where he goes in the order. No, he's actually just starting a flying lap. My apologies. However, we did just... Oh, big crash. David Mrocek's just hit a... Who's that going? It's a BMW going over the crest of the hill, and they've both gone spinning off, and I believe they were both on a lap there too, so that's going to cost a couple of drivers a bit of time in this session.
It certainly is, and let's not forget that if you're making contact in qualifying, these stewards are still going to look, they're still going to see. It's not you're all fine and dandy here in qualifying. I think it may be a layer, I'm not too sure who he's quite made contact with. I got to the but Mrozek there, but big incidents, and I think his day might just be a longer one as Jim Parisis goes to pole, 141.2, and just like that, he's got himself at the halfway stage of qualifying. He's got himself a tenth advantage over Risto Cap. Jim Parisis came to play.
That is fantastic for Jim Parisis, one of the most experienced drivers on the grid. I say that with the utmost respect for him. It's fantastic that he's been around sim racing for as long as he has, and that he's still so quick. Finished 6th at Silverstone, of course, for Edge Esports, who are 3rd in the team standings. But that, the 2 points for pole, if he can stay there for the remaining 10 minutes and 15 seconds of qualifying, would really put a spring in his step, shall we say, heading into the race. And pole position here is actually quite important, because although you have that long back straight after the oak tree, it's actually really difficult to pull a move. You can get alongside your opponent, but the next corner is really quite quick, and unless you're alongside them properly, you're not really going to have an attempt there. And we know that it's difficult for GT3 cars to follow each other too closely, and so it's certainly going to be a big advantage to take pole position here.
Certainly is. Matthew Beavis has just moved up into 7th position overall with a good time from him. Puts him just half a second off of pole position. Jurnej Simoncic has moved up into 4th place. He's just 0.2 at the moment off of pole, and he's got himself ahead of Caruso. So this is going to be key to keep an eye out on him. Forward inside of the top 4, Parisis, Capit, Kasdorp, and also all there, all fighting, all close, which tells you balance of performance between the teams, the Aston Martin, of course, the Mercedes, and all very even in terms of their drivers. Everybody has a good chance of getting a good result, as just like that, Risto Capit pips Parisis 38,000, says...
Risto Capit, that's fantastic from him. He was extremely fast at Silverstone, and he's always been extremely fast in everything that we've seen him do. Currently, his teammate Al Sabti has not yet set a lap, and he's the only driver in the field who hasn't. So we're still waiting to see what Al Sabti can do. But I tell you what, he's probably going to be quick, almost definitely. In fact, Matteo Caruso there has just moved up into 3rd position. So Caruso makes it Singularity Racing at 3rd and 4th as Al Sabti. Yeah, I told you Al Sabti was going to be fast. He slots just ahead of the Singularity drivers, and the AAA guys are only separated here by Jim Parisa.
They certainly are, and talk about gap top, it is half a 10 between the top 3 at the moment in qualifying. 9,000 split, Parisis and Al Sabdi out on track. Your top 7 split by just 0.3 of a second now, as Dan Kiss has moved up into that 7th place. So everybody seemingly looking like they've got pace. The battle for the top 10 as well, pretty much hotting up too, as Galera, I think, maybe just pulled over to the side there in the BMW. He's got himself Itimayativ just behind. So the 10 and the 11, both BMWs right there in the middle of the pack, looking at themselves thinking, well, one of us at the moment is good for a top 10. The other one's going to have to play rear gunner from behind as Simoncic makes it a 41 flat, and he's got himself pole in the opening race of the season. He's looking for back-to-back and a 10th advantage with 7 minutes to go. Drivers will only have maybe 2 or 3 big runs left in them, and just like that, Simoncic is at the top once again.
Yeah, Simoncic, we've seen that he's extremely fast over a lap. He just seemed to drop back at the start and throughout the middle section of the last race. So if he does take pole today, that would be great. But he needs to translate that into a race victory if he wants to score significantly today. His teammate David Mrocek, I'm afraid, has not had quite so much of a good time there. He still set a very fast lap, although it's only 9th place and over 0.7 of a second behind Simoncic. So more time to be gained in that second Audi, I expect. And you were mentioning the BMWs just now as well. We actually only have 4 BMWs in the pack, and they're all absolutely together in terms of the order in 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th positions. So it's quite obvious how the BMW's pace stacks up against the rest of the cars. And who just jumped up there?
I think that may have been Yuri Kazdorp there going to 5th. I wasn't quite too sure about it, as right now your top 5 looks like this: Simoncic, Capit, Parisis, Al Sabdi and Kazdorp, split by just 1/4 of a second between them at the moment. So these times certainly falling down. 5 minutes to go on the clock, and this is where you start gearing up for the big lap. You've got do or die mentality now. If you run off wide, if you make a mistake, lap abandon at that point. But I think all these drivers know and understand you can't afford to be in a position where you don't give your all in the final stage of qualifying. If you have 1 lap left, you might as well use it to the fullest of your capabilities.
Realistically, you want to go out for your final stint in the final 2, 3 or 4 minutes of the session, because that's when the track... Oh, as Capit goes to the top with a 140.976. He's the first driver into the 140 buffer, below 141. That's great from Capit there, who Dimitrianis Simoncic. But what I was going to say is that you want to go out in the final 2, 3, 4 minutes of the session, because that's when the track will have the most rubber on it. That's when it's going to be the most grippy. And that's also when no one else can come through to demote you if you go to the top.
Yes, the Risto Capit, they're fantastic in terms of that time, as right now Dan Kiss moves up into 6th place with a 141.3. They're knocking on the door, they're telling everybody to jump, and people are asking, how high do we need to jump? And every time it seems the bar continues to be raised as drivers look for time and hope to try and find a little bit more out there on the road. You look a little bit further down the order towards the lower half of the field. Jan Vidlin van Ommen has just moved up into 8th place on a 140.9, which has been good work from him to gain a couple of positions at the back. The final 2 positions, Simon Marshall and Elvin Smith. Smith having issues in practice, almost getting himself disqualified for a big crashed through that section, so managed to be able to get away with being able to run when it comes to qualifying. So, Risto Capit then, Jurnej Simoncic, Jim Paresis, your top three, but it is Capit and Simoncic who are pulling away, and let's not forget that those two had a fantastic fight, Caitlin, when it came to Silverstone.
I've just seen as well that we have a two-place grid penalty for Tiziano Brioni for causing an accident earlier on, and I believe that was the accident I saw where David Mrozek went shooting off the track. So Tiziano Brioni there, obviously judged to have been at fault for slowing down dangerously and getting in the way, and he's going to have to pay the price for that one.
Yep, he certainly is going to have to pay the price, which means he needs to get up high as he possibly can in terms of qualifying and get that time in. If he doesn't, and he is waiting right till the last to get himself out on track, he will go no higher than 11th position, which will turn into 13th, which will bump up his teammate Riccardo Vincenzi up through the position of the Italian-based team. But for the time being, Capit, Simoncic, Paresis, Al Sabdi and Kasdorp, your top five, and the top 8 drivers split by just 0.4 of a second between them, as Itamar Yativ has just moved inside the top 10 with just a shade over 2 minutes to go.
He has, and Al Sabdi actually just abandoned a lap where he was fastest of anyone in the... No, it's Kasdorp. Kasdorp is fastest of anyone in the first sector, completing his lap and goes to second. So Yuri Kasdorp, 141.024, can't quite get it below the 141s, can't quite challenge Capit, but he's less than half a tenth of a second off. That's very, very close. And I tell you what, we've got Matthew Beavis has just jumped up into the top 10. He's gone 9th. As Risto Capit exits the pit lane, set up for his final flying run, and I don't think he's going to get around in time.
No, he's definitely not going to get around in time. You've got to go at breakneck speed. Going to get one more in, and Capit decides, I'm not going to get one more in. Yuri Kasdorp, keep an eye on him because he's gone out right on the bubble margin to making it across the start-finish line with a lap to go. He needs to absolutely gun it to get himself around, and that's not going to do the tyres any good at all. We can see he's running very wide when he comes through the S's section, trying to get as much as he can out of the car. If he can't get round, he can't go any quicker. Jurnej Simoncic, for example, is in 3rd place. He's on a flying lap at the moment, looking to find some more time, as is Jim Paresis and Hani Al Sabdi looking to get it. Dankis will not go any quicker. Maybe Matej Caruso and Mrozek all have that chance to, but right now, Yuri Kasdorp, who's been the closest of anyone to getting past Risto Capit, now needs to get over the line in the next 40 seconds.
However, Simoncic has improved his first sector time. He's in the 2nd sector now, coming down the back straight, and we're about to see what that's going to be. So Jurnej Simoncic, I think, stands a really, really good chance of snatching away pole position with this lap, although I am also going to keep a close eye on Yuri Kasdorp, who is, I think, just about going to make it around to start his final flying lap. Simoncic's 2nd sector time wasn't great. I thought he had a little wiggle coming onto the Oak Tree straight. Kasdorp, yeah, he is going to cross the line.
Yeah.
Simoncic in the final sector. This is the important one for him.
Across the line he goes. Jurnej Simoncic finds himself improvement, but he's short 0.002 on Yuri Kasdorp. He will go no higher than 3rd place, and he pulls it over to one side. The Audi unable to find anything. Hani Al Sabdi has gone straight on his day. All but done. Yuri Kasdorp now probably stands as the last bastion out on track, unless David Mrozek finds anything in the Audi. He finds himself up over the Oak Tree corner, missing the apex slightly there at that double apex, using all of the rumble strip there on the exit. And these are the only 2 drivers out on track, apart from Elvin Smith, who can go out there and go a little bit quicker. So we'll see what David Mrozek can do. He's currently 0.4 of a second off of what he needs. He needs a 10th to move up a position ahead of Dan Kiss in the Edge Esports car. On the brakes, into the roller coaster, comes along Mrozek as he makes that push through the final few corners. The hog pen coming up at 17 and 17A as runs down the hill, looking to get himself as much as he possibly can through this final corner and pushing to the line. David Mrozek, currently in 8th place, decides to abandon ship You will not find the improvement. But what about Yuri Kazdorp, who got in the lap as late as he possibly can? He needs 47 thousandths to find that improvement as he makes his way through 16. 17 comes up, and 17A heavy over the curbs. Through 16 he goes, and now making the push to the line, he goes down onto pit road. It is abandoned ship. This is the grid then coming up at VIR. Risto Capit then gets pole position, 140.976 and 2 points in the bank. Yuri Kazdorp will start from second ahead of Jurnej Simončić in third. Jim Parisis going for fourth place. Hani Al-Sabdi will start from fifth with Matteo Caruso alongside the stand-in, with Daniel Kiss and Davin Mrozek sharing out row 4. Row 5 will see Matthew Beavis and Itamar Yativ. From 11th position onwards, Matthew Galea and Tiziano Brioni will go through to this next section as we get to the next bit going. As we keep on going, so we've got Martin Vindis in 14th, Ben Shapanik 15th, then Zoltan Shuti, Marius Nikolai, Jean-Willem van Offen, Simon Marshall, Ibrahim Al-Mubarak, and Elvin Smith. Apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to step aside very briefly. We'll be back with more after this. World Pro Racing GT3 Masters is fueled by Enemed and supported by Melita, Gaming Malta and Visit Malta.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Okay, we proceed to the start.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to World Pro Racing action here from Virginia International Raceway, brought to you here, of course, powered by and, of course, sponsored by Melita Gaming Malta and Visit Malta. This, of course, the second round of the championship as qualifying came to a close, and some brilliant time came through in that qualifying session, which did see those get to the top of the timing stat feel very much vindicated for what they were able to accomplish. Jake Sperry and, of course, Caitlin Penny here on the commentary. Justin Misford is on the cameras for this one. Your chief steward is Adrian Fagayo, and, of course, with that, George Musk will be on top of that one, stewarding, with Fagayo, of course, being the race director overall. But this is going to be a big challenge here. An hour's worth of racing plus is always going to be difficult around a track like this, which really does punish a mistake. This grass all around the track, always very difficult. Caitlin, no Herman Tilke design track. You've got to make sure you are perfect, or else you're finding yourself 3 miles down the road.
Absolutely, and that, of course, is because there's grass lining the circuit in pretty much every place. I don't see any runoff at all apart from grass here. So if you stick a wheel out, you just get kind of sucked off, because the friction efficiency of grass is very, very different to that of tarmac, and you just keep going and going and going. And I've seen cars pretty much end up in the trees here at Virginia International Raceway. By doing that, it looks as if the barriers are miles from the track, but I tell you what, they get significantly closer very, very fast as soon as you make a mistake.
Those mistakes have to be kept to a minimum, and we saw mistake very much at a premium at the opening race. You had to use ability to make sure that you get your way around a fantastic track like Silverstone was. But here at Virginia, this is going to be a different test, a different challenge, and every driver will learn and understand that here you don't have that luxury of running off wide and being able to recover it. You have pinpoint accurate around this track. A track flows very much, cutting through the countryside, and everybody who has seen an episode of Top Gear knows just how very, very difficult this circuit can be. Of course, those in road legal cars, but maybe have life a little easier with the added downforce and co. But 5 seconds to go left in the warm-up, this pre-warm-up before the race. We'll take you over then to the starting grid in just a moment's time as we now head ourselves over towards racing action for round 2 of the championship here of World Pro Racing GT3 Masters Series. Everything could change in just one blink of an eye. Well, just before we get to there, Caitlin, what are your expectations moving into the racing act?
I'm expecting racing action. That's the first thing I'm going to say. Because if you remember last week at Silverstone, we had a whole chain of cars fighting over P2, P3, P4, all of those positions, pretty much the entire way through. And here I'm just expecting that to be more so the case. Because it's difficult to pass here, I'm expecting it to be a very tense race with a lot of drivers bunching up behind each other. And of course, as soon as one driver makes a mistake or one driver gets a bad run or a better run onto the straight or something like that, suddenly they're all together, suddenly it's blast off, and suddenly you're going to get all sorts of funky accordion effects and explosions, hopefully not literal explosions, but kind of explosions of the traffic, if you get what I mean. What I'm saying is there's a lot of potential energy here, and I'm sure we're about to see it absolutely blast off.
Well, confirmation then of how this grid will stack up for the rolling start here. The wonderful pace lap they will get behind the safety car. Risto Capit then will be control of this one with Yuri Kazdor back in second position. The second row consists of Jurnej Simoncic and Jim Parisis. Hani Al-Sabdi will start from 5th with Matteo Caruso in 6th place. Dan Kish and David Mrozek will start this one 7th and 8th. 9th place will be Matthew Beavis and Tamar Yatic will round out the top 10. Row 6 will consist of Matthew Galea and Ricciardo Vincenzi, with Martin Vindis and Tiziano Brioni with the 2-place grid penalty after an incident in qualifying, dropped back to 14th. Ben Chapan, Zoltan Schuti, 15th and 16th. Marius Nicolai, Jan Willem van Ommen. Simon Marshall, I believe, is not taking to the grid. He will start this race from pit lane as Elvin Smith and Ibrahim Al-Mubarak will finish off the starting grid for this one as they make their way up over the hill at the South Bend and towards the old Oak Tree corner. So, next challenge then, very quickly here, Caitlin. This is going to be all about how you attack the opening stages. You've got one chance into turn 1. From there, you wait half.
Someone I was speaking to before this race predicted that someone would go for a mega lunge into to turn 1. And these drivers have to remember that it's not 1 in the first corner. I know that's a cliche thing to say, but if you damage your car or if you go spinning off on the first lap of the race, I tell you what, it is so tricky to come back, and I can pretty much guarantee that you're not going to have a chance of winning it. So as much as you do want to make up positions in the first couple of corners, and as much as that will set you up for a good race, you've got to keep your head. You've got to keep sensible as we come to the line.
Certainly will, as they will make their way through turn 6 and then 17 and 17A, giving that gap. Mercedes, Aston Martin, and also Audi there in the top 3. 4 different teams inside of the top 4. How will things play out at round 2 as we'll come on in just a moment as we get ourselves underway for racing act here at National Raceway. The green flag dropped right about now, and they get the getaway that was wanted, and Capit has it here ahead of Yuri Kazdorp as he has only a 1/10 of a second as Parisis looks in the background thinking about the outside line as they make their way into turn 1. Always difficult on the outside then for the Aston Martins to go through, and Simoncic is immediately trying to go onto the offensive here as they move through towards turn 2 and a NASCAR bend, and on the brakes they go. It seems that there is no changes of position then inside of the top 4, except Hani Al-Sabdi has managed to pick one off as they go through. Matthew Beavis will look to try and get around David Mrozek there. The Porsche, the rookie monster, gets a tap, gets forced onto the grass, and will lose 3-4 positions, and it will just get worse and worse as they bottleneck one in the fence.
Yeah, we actually had a huge crash before the race had even started. Al-Mubarak there is in the fence as well. And Matthew Gallagher is bouncing along the barrier. He's still sliding backwards. So a couple of incidents on the first lap of the race. And that seriously held up Simon Marshall, who started from the pit lane. He, for some reason, is registered as a lap down. But also, he was being held in the pits. People were crashing ahead of him, and it was still registering the pit exit as being unsafe. So he's going to be a long way back. But we have 4 retirements already: Smith, Al-Mubarak, Shiti, and Nicolay, and we have more damaged cars than that as well. This is
It certainly is. Matteo Caruso goes down the inside of Jim Parisis. He makes the move and gets it stuck. So a big incident then in the early stages, but the front already pulling away at the rate of 1.2 seconds here, but it is Hani Al-Sabdi now up into third. He's found a way past Yerna, who's going backwards just like in the early stages at Silverstone. So at all, and it's on for the race lead here potentially. It's Reese Gibbs it up to Yuri Kazdorp. Can he slow it up? Yes, he can. Kazdorp now takes the lead as they were dead even heading through turn 1. So Risto Capit now has to get on the offensive pedal, but Silverstone, Yuri Kazdorp takes the lead very early on in the 1 hour race that we've got. And as we know from last time, he was allowed to run away. You can't let Risto Capit run away right now, as in fact it's Yuri Kazdorp this race, or you can't let Kazdorp run away.
Yeah, Capit there. Kazdorp, sorry, ran slightly wide. And I'm sure that if Capit had been ready for that, he could have ducked straight back underneath him. So that's slightly disappointing for Capit. But then again, hindsight is a wonderful and annoying thing. So Capit has to settle for second for now. Al-Sabdi is behind him. Actually just dipped a wheel or two onto the grass there. Lost a bit of time as a second and third, and still Singularity first and fifth. So a couple of teams gaining significant points already, but one team who's not doing that well is RPM GT Omega Esports, as Matthew Galea, I'm afraid, has had to pit up first.
That's not ideal, and that, of course, will be for the damage on that opening lap, and just confirmation then that a disqualification will come in for Elvin Smith there after that incident for the start lag there, so that will not part of the plan. Battle is on though for 4th position as Yernej Simoncic, just like last round, having to play the defensive card here. Matteo Caruso will want to try and make a way through as quickly as possible, help the team battle points, because remember, being in 5th position is not going to be useful in this. Looking to the out to try and get the move done on the Audi of Simoncic, but not going to see that one work. You have to look at where those two in the AAAs are. They are 2nd and 3rd, which will be absolutely fantastic. Singularity are 1st and 5th, and 1st and 4th than what they have got at the moment. But again, they've got a tough cookie in the form of what is going to be Yernej Simoncic. But let's not forget behind here, Parisis, Kiss, you got Rojek under pressure from Itamar Yativ as well. Yativ having a good start to this event, now thinking about, can I get down the inside through this section? Oh, I'm going to try with the BMW, but you're not going to find it. The BMW is wide.
BMW very, very wide, not just in terms of the actual car, but in terms of the defense being displayed here by the driver. Which one were we looking at?
Yativ we were.
Oh, okay,
And,
well, that's dropped Shupanek quite a way back now from that, as Yativ
It's Caruso.
has forced. Oh yeah, side by side for 4th. It's Caruso versus Simoncic, and Caruso will have the inside line for the down. Manages to make it stick into those downhill S's. So now we have 2 Singularities and 2 AAAs in the top 4, much as we did in Silverstone.
And what's very telling is that Yernej Simoncic is struggling in the early stages. Jan Willem van Ommen is out of the race. Got himself some suspension issues as Martin finds himself with a drive-through penalty. So that's car 170 with a drive-through penalty, and that, of course, will go to Martin Vindis, who will have to take the long road, 14th position, back a long way further in this race. So already a lot of drivers running into issues, but Keep an eye on Ben Schupanek because that Corvette's under pressure. The rookie monsters car of Matthew B struggling in the early goings. Now look behind. There's Vincenzi. There's Brioni there for the Musto BMWs. Linus Stern trying to find this battle, trying to find this move. But ultimately, both of them are not in a position to go out there and attack just yet. They'll probably rely on their run out of the Oak Tree corner.
Yeah, they will. And the instant that Vendis was penalised for was the one that saw Galea get bounced along the barrier backwards. I just had a replay of that, and he did just run straight into the back of them. And the incident that Smith was disqualified for was one that happened before the green flag, where basically a couple of the Aston Martins went ploughing into the back of the field as everyone slowed down to get ready for the start. So absolute carnage early on. We started with 21 drivers. We've already lost 5, so down to 16 as they come through the S's and towards the end of the fourth.
Crucially, look at the gap at the front of the field. Yuri Kasdorp is pulling away Risto Capit, who does not have an answer at this point in time. Gap up at 1.3, should be going a little 0.4 seconds now for Risto Capit, and that's not what he is thinking about. That's not part of what he needs. On though, is Itamar Yatsiv down the inside of Davin Rojek. Can he get it slowed up? No, he can't get it down the inside. So Yatsiv able to think about making the move, but couldn't quite get there in the end. Has been searching in that Omega car, hoping to try and get by the Avicronic Racing driver. Little wiggle there from Mrozek, heading through the NASCAR bend into the left hook, and then the right hook that very much follows. But again, Yativ is the one looking to be the aggressor here. Has to get on and make that day with Kiss and
a bunch of crazy contact going on in the early few laps of the race, but very clean out in front. Still Kasdorp running away. Oh, and Capit and El Sabdi both dipping wheels into the grass there, heading up towards Oak Tree to set them up well. I've seen El Sabdi doing that a couple of times. Doesn't appear to cost them a lot, although the difficulty with that is either if they get grass in their tires, and rFactor 2 does simulate that. If they touch the grass and get kind of sucked off and end up setting themselves up really bad for the braking zone at Oak Tree, and that could absolutely give a run. So Jenny, Simon Church, anyone who is in close attendance with them at the time.
It's like close attendance that all these drivers are looking to stay within at the moment. Mrozek under pressure once again as Itamar Yativ finds himself tucked underneath within a 10.5, and this is going to be a really good chance for the how defensive to the inside defending wants dummy merge to the inside then from Yativ. He wants to get this one slowed up and between the two, and he block passes. They both slide a little bit on the grass. There goes Mrozek, and he loses the place. A forceful Itamar Yativ looking more touring car than Grand Tourer as he now finds himself in 8th position, looking to battle next.
And it's Tiziano Brioni who's missing his rear wing, and he's just made contact with Ben Schupanek. So those two have been in the wars. Brioni's gone firing off into the Armco. Luckily, despite the fact he bounced across the track, didn't take anyone else off, and I'm afraid that is Tiziano out of the race. And also we had Simon Marshall, into the pits that last time around as well, and that's for a drive-through. So something well, but yeah, another drive.
Certainly have lost another driver, and that's not good at all as we move back down another fair pair. Risto Capit now is falling backwards into the clutches of Hani Al Sabdi at the moment, down to 1.2 seconds overall, and I have to say that Hani Al Sabdi is looking a lot more likely to get past T-Bit than Capit is chasing down Yuri Kasdorp, who is absolutely walking at the moment here. Caruso there in 4th place, still having a good run of things. Dan Kiss has lost the position now as Itamar Yativ is up into 7th place and making great moves up through this field and doing it again and again and again.
It was a plain slipstream move, but it's been done. It's the Yativ in the BMW up into the highest position a BMW running in so far in the 2 races that we've had this season. Itamar Yativ, of course, last time out, only finished 18th at Silverstone, did not have a good time of it at all. I believe he was involved in incidents earlier on in the race, and he didn't races, so picking off Aston Martin's left, right and centre, and it looks to me as if he's actually gaining time on Jim here, so battle on for 6th probably this time round. We've seen that the BMW is extremely quick in a straight line. Can he pull the same move on Paresis that he pulled on his Edge Esports team?
Well, we'll see that. Drive-through penalty comes in for the vehicle in 11th position. That's Ben Schupanek in the Corvette, and he will get that for the instant with Tiziano Brioni, so he will drop back and take that penalty as there's a mistake there for Dan Kiss, and this is open for David Mrozek to slip away back. So there in the Audi on the back of this train, and then Matthew Beavis trying to find a way in for the Rookie Monsters Porsche as they make their way once again to the roller coaster, which seems good. But is there a chance to get back here and make this move? Dankis seems to think there is, but there's no room at the end to go and make that move, and he bumps him through the corner there, trying to find any chance to get through. And the Audi will not move. It will not.
Well, I can see exactly why Schupanek got a penalty for that. The Audi was, Brioni was just holding his line, and Schupanek turned right over into him, but he's going to take a penalty, and it's going to be okay. Meanwhile, Mrozek here, Yativ, up the inside of Paresis, wasn't able to pull it into the chicane, but this time he makes it stick into turn 1. That is very, very nicely done, and Yativ is absolutely on a charge here in the race. He didn't have the same kind of qualifying pace, but his performance in the race so far has been absolutely top-notch, and now chasing down Jurnej Simoncic. Is he faster than him as
well? That gap is about 1.7 seconds at the moment, so a lot of work to do to chase down Simoncic, who's just a little road. There'll be no draft to help that out either, which makes life a little bit more difficult. The battle 3rd and 4th has changed. Hani Al-Sabdi has lost the position. Matteo Caruso finds himself through. Now all of a sudden it is exactly as you were 2 weeks ago. Kasdorp leads. You got Capit in 2nd, and a singularity in the form this time of Matteo Caruso. So the more things change, the more things seemingly look to stay out on track. So we'll see how that one will develop over the course of the hour that comes up. We're already looking at 1/4 distance being scored complete then in this race. Jim Paresis trying to stay here with Itamar Yativ, and now that he's found himself in in clean air, he now has the buffer, and it's allowing Paresis to stay with in this battle lower down the order. These drivers all needing to stay within about a second, half a second of each other if they want to start thinking of making moves. No chances for that this lap by.
Paresis is sticking with Yativ, though he's not too far back, and I think they're going to be separated by about half a second here as they cross the start-finish line. It's a bit over that, probably closer to 7/10. But just as I expected might happen, Yativ is slowly catching up to the back of Jurnej Simoncic. His last lap was faster than Simoncic's lap by about 0.2 of a second. So Yativ here just seems to have this turn of pace in the race that we haven't seen from any of these other drivers, or that we didn't even see from Yativ in Silverstone. Obviously, his setup's just better for the race than it was for qualifying, and that could be one of many things. It could be that it's saving its tyres better and therefore has fresher tyres at this point in the race. Not that we're too far into the race, of course. It could be that the car is easier to control, so he's making fewer mistakes. Although, as I say that, he's just dipped some wheels into the grass. It could be that it's easier to follow cars ahead as well, that it's not disrupting the aero so much. Or it could be a combination of a lot of things. Whatever the case, he's doing a great job so far.
Very much doing a great job. Here's Matt Beavis, though, tucked up in the draft behind Dan Kiss. Kiss has left the door open. There's nothing he can do now then as the rookie monster car finds a way down the inside. And just like that, Matt Beavis able to make the move and move himself into 9th place overall with a good overtake. And I think Beavis is wanting to get back into this, has been stuck in around that top 10. Mrozek will be next in terms of the hit list. to try and chase down the next group out on track. But that lead at the front of the field, let's remember, we are a quarter of the way in through this race. Yuri Kazdorp's lead is 4.5 seconds over Risto Capit, who is falling backwards into the clutches of Matteo Caruso. That gap 9/10 now, and Caruso will have draft.
Yeah, indeed, that's happening. Capit, Caruso, and Al Sabdi also very, very close together, and I expect that Al Sabdi is going to get onto the back of Caruso in this as well. So the AAA guys could work together, I suppose, to try to get ahead and stay ahead of the Caruso car. Capit will want to make sure as he's going down the straight that he breaks the toe of Caruso's car, while still allowing Al Sabdi to chase Caruso down. Whatever the case, we also had a change of positions further back because Ben Schupanek in the Corvette made his penalty, took his stop go, and has returned to the track in 12th position. Now we've got some slipstreaming going on down the straight. It's not going to be a change for third or fourth, but Yativ there has just made his way past Simoncic for fifth.
Yeah, and just like that, the Audi struggling in a straight line, so the BMW really rocketing through the field now. Yativ up into position 5, but crucially now has himself about 4 seconds to try and chase down to Hani Al Sabdi in 4th position. This will be a very long challenge indeed as they continue on. Caruso slices the gap by half a second over that last lap, so he brings it back down to just 4/10. And I have to think that when they get to the oak tree, Risto Capit will be looking behind him very intently, trying to hold off a 1-2 finish at the moment. Singularity, who are in complete control of this event. So Caruso now looking to cement the 1-2, looking to cement them as the #1 team, moving to the halfway stage of the championship. And Matteo Caruso now needing to get this move sorted, and very quickly, because Capit will defend. He knows that the victory is out of sight unless Kazdorp makes uncharacteristic error.
Absolutely, it is on for second place here between Capit and Caruso, and as they get onto the straight, Caruso will be getting as much of a slipstream as he can from Capit's car. Admittedly, the Aston Martin does tend to struggle in the straight line compared to some of the other cars because it's so wide. It has so much drag, and Al Sabdi's off. Al Sabdi's. And that is a big shame for the... Oh, he's dropped it in his own. He touched the grass on the outside. Around he went. And that is a huge shame for the AAA esports driver. They were on for a 4 there. And Al Sabdi has lost a bunch of positions with that simple mistake.
Back down to 10th place now, Hani Al Sabdi. A big spin and not what was part of it. Dropping tyres over at that section of track, so now he's got to fight through the field all over again. This promotion up into 4th, Simoncic back to 5th, Parisis 6th, Mrozek, Vives 7th and 8th, and Dan Kiss now in 9th place. Over here is the move potentially for 2nd position. Risto Capit, door was left open there, and only a look from Caruso. He wants to try a little bit more clear cut as they go through. Behind that though, Simoncic still struggling, and now Jim Parisis has the exact same look that he had at Silverstone. Not you again. I couldn't get by you at Silverstone. Once more to make the move this time here at Virginia. So again, more things change, more things stay the same. Simoncic having to defend from a Parisis as the battle for 2nd continues, as Caruso desperately tries and put himself into position up the oak tree.
He's even closer than he was a lap ago. What I was going to say is that although the Aston Martin has more drag than the Mercedes, it also has an extremely powerful engine, and I'd say also a slightly more streamlined shape at the front as well. I think if you tested their top speeds and their accelerations, the Mercedes would be faster, but with the slipstream, that does tend to equalize it a bit. Really, Caruso just needs to gain as much time as he possibly can in the corners. Now he gets the slipstream, he gets that win back out of it, because he's not going to pull a move there. Meanwhile, Itamar Yativ is already up in...
That's Parisis. That's Jim
Well,
Paris
I think
is making-
someone's made a mistake there.
So he's got through on Enemed. Simoncic going back, but I believe keeping in fourth position. But Paris now gets past Enemed. Simoncic really struggling, and now it's his teammate who wants to get through next. So Haniel Sabdi's dropped a position as Vincenzi's done well and has gone through. So Hal Sabdi's dropped back to 11th place overall. But crucially, Enemed Simoncic back in 6th place, really struggling. Jim Paris has made the move and has made it comfortable. And now where's the question? Is it multi-18 now over at Avid Chronic? Is Mrozek going to get the wave through?
Yeah, Sabdi there not having a good time of it. I think he's actually made another mistake there, and that's probably what confused me a lap ago. And yeah, actually he had a second spin. So Sabdi, I think probably after the first spin, has found himself with flat-spotted tires or something of the sort, and has made another mistake. He just ran wide going into Oak Tree, and around it went. He was lucky to avoid Vincenzi there as well. And Al Sabdi will be kicking himself for this because he pretty much never makes mistakes in races. And this is probably, with all due respect to him, the worst I've ever seen him drive.
Well, he's definitely struggling, but someone who isn't is Matteo Caruso. Had a good run this time, heading through around turn 8 so, and now he's got the draft and able to use it against that big grunt of the Mercedes. Always going to be difficult to get by the Mercedes on this section. Down the hill, tries the move, and is it finally sorted? Yes, it is. Matteo Caruso moves it up, makes it 1-2 singularity. Aston Martin's in complete control as Yuri Kasdorp and Matteo Caruso now can control the pace of the rest of the field as they all continue to battle. 8th position on still, though. Matthew Beavis trying to find a way past David Mrozek here. And Mrozek, I think, is very firmly being told you've got to keep Beavis behind, because Beavis, very much similar boat here to the Audi, the Porsche, struggling to find the big moves. And the Rookie Monster's the only team to take this Porsche car, and now looking for the inside here. Is the move done by Beavis? Late on the brakes you go into the opening corner, and at the horseshoe, wiggle on the mid part of the corner is not going to help, but the move is completed there because of the outside line. Very crucial there for Beavis, up into 7th.
Beavis up into 7th, and I believe this is the highest position that we've seen a Porsche run this series as well. Once again, this is only race 2 of the championship. However, Rookie Monsters didn't have the best time of it. Last time out, their top driver was Beavis in 14th position, and their other driver was involved in an accident. So this is the best that they've driven so far. Mrozek there will be disappointed with 8th place, but it does tend to be that the Audis drop back slightly in the race. Really not sure why. It's the opposite of the BMWs, especially that of Itamar Yativ. It just seems to be that there's a very, very different level of performance between these cars from qualifying to the race.
Well, it seems that the race sets aren't quite there at the moment for Avid Chronic Racing and Enemed Simoncic, who's always seemingly going backwards over the course of these races. He needs to find that pace and get everything working in favour, because we thought this Audi would really suit around this place, but really the Aston Martins once again have really turned up. Big wiggle from Matt Beavis, who struggles again, and this could allow Mrozek the chance to get back into play. In terms of this battle, they do have a bit of a gap behind of about 2.5 seconds to Daniel Kiss in 9th for Edge Esports. So they know that they have only so much leniency that they can use in terms of their battle. But I think if you're using Beavis, if Beavis is in front, Mrozek might want to gain positions here and by trying to attack as much as possible. Not if you run wide like Beavis just did through the opening section. Both of them, I think, struggling a little bit to pitch a lap together as they try and deal with their way in 7th and 8th and get some more consistent points on the board.
So we are just 25 minutes into this race, approaching the halfway point. Of course, we're not expecting a pit stop. These cars can do a full hour on fuel. However, we saw last time out at Silverstone that it is very, very close. Some people didn't make it. So if there's fuel saving going on at the minute, that will probably be costing people quite a bit of time. And I suppose we'll have to see right at the end of the race what the effective order is, as some people I expect might not make the finish. Then then again, you could also say that they're going to learn from their mistakes and do it better this time around. I was going to say that that Honzik would do it better this time around. However, he's not actually in this race. He was a driver who was challenging for high positions last time, and then had to make a pit stop and dropped several places. Although I'm sure there are many other drivers who will have that in the back of their mind today as well.
Certainly will. Of course, Jaroslav Honzik ill, so he will look to try and recover, and we say get better soon as he tries to get out and show exactly what he's capable of at round 3 of the championship. But yeah, at the front of the field at the moment for Yuri Kasdorp is up over 8 seconds at the moment. This is just classy driving from Kasdorp, able to pull away from the rest of the field. Nobody seemingly has an answer to what Kasdorp is capable of doing right now. So question becomes, how on earth do you stop Yuri Kasdorp in these sorts of races?
How do you stop Yuri Kasdorp? It seems that no one has an answer for him. We saw that at Silverstone and here as well, and we know full well that Kasdorp is one of the fastest drivers in the world. He beat Yayovsky last time out at Silverstone, and Yayovsky is a world's fastest gamer finalist. So Kasdorp, one of the fastest drivers in the world, one of the fastest in rFactor 2 especially. He's been all over the place. I've raced against him personally, and I can tell you that I have literally no idea how he goes as fast as he does. He's already 8.9 seconds ahead of Matteo Caruso, who's in second place. And with 4 rounds to go in the championship, he's going to take some beating. Here comes
Beavis down the inside of Simoncic, runs out of road as Simoncic does well to hold it off at the roller coaster. So Rookie Monster's starting to move, starting to stir. Avid Chronic Racing struggling again. Simoncic now under pressure from Matt Beavis. These two were 2 worlds apart just 2 weeks ago. Now they're on the same piece of real estate, trying to battle it out with each other. So Matt Beavis trying to get himself running up the train. That was the first opportunity he's had, and let's not forget here, he's got 32 minutes to go out there and make a move effectively. He's got himself another 17 laps if he wants to try and make sure that this one plays out in his advantage. But ultimately, he's just going to sit, wait, play the patience game. But this is where the Audis come back into their own in the mid to late part of stint.
Yeah, but Kasdorp's still pulling away every single lap. He's up to 9 seconds now. That's really quite special. Although, as you were saying, back to the fight for 5th, 6th and 7th, we've actually got 3 different cars here. We've got an Aston Martin, an Audi and a Porsche, and then another Audi following them in David Morocek as well. These different cars are going to have different strengths and weaknesses between them. So it'll be interesting to analyse this fight, to keep an eye on it and see exactly who performs strongly and where, and who struggles in which different points. As Simoncic's going to run slightly wide there, and I expect this is going to give Beavis the run he needs to properly challenge up towards the S's.
Yes, but you have to remember Beavis very wide through the first part of the oak tree, so this is going to be a tough challenge, trying to open out the corner as much as possible. Now able to pull alongside. Look how strong that draft is for the Porsche. The Audi struggling in the straight line, and Matthew Beavis gets away through and up into 6th place. So Simoncic really struggling right now, falling backwards once again as this race continues to develop, as halfway will come up in just a moment's time. But Yuri Kasdorp here, who leads this race outright. Keep an eye out though on the battle going on, which is not really developed too much, but is still in the back of the mind for Risto Capit in 3rd, because Itamar Yativ, only 3 seconds down the road, has that ability to chase down. And if you can get some good consistent laps in here, Yativ, a podium is not out of the question. It's not unsurmountable for GT Omega and RPM. They know what they've got. They've just got to chase hard for another 30 minutes, and it's 0 mistakes time.
Yeah, you can't afford to make mistakes in this league. because the cars are all so close in terms of performance. It's really, really tricky to overtake unless you see a driver ahead making a mistake, like the mistake we just saw from Enemed Simoncic, and now he's going to really struggle to get that position back, especially since the Porsche, I think, is probably the most aerodynamic car in the league. It doesn't struggle in a straight line at all. And and he's gone off. So Beavis is in the wall. Beavis has stuffed it in the barrier, just as I was saying. It was going to be really, really tricky for Simoncic to get back through, and he's going to be gutted with himself there. You said it was 0 mistakes time. He slid sideways into Oak Tree, and he has dropped from 6th down to 10th.
He looked like he was wide a lap previous, and just like that, Matthew Beavis drops himself way down the order. He'll definitely need to come down in and get some damage repaired there if it's not already broken beyond repair. So Matt Beavis, fortunately enough, one of the slowest parts on the circuit to go and have that off. But again, this is why this isn't a Herman Tilke design track, because the state are punished just a lot more around this track than everywhere else is. So that does promote a few drivers. Simoncic back to 6th, Mrozek in 7th, Dankis 8th, and quietest of them all, Ricciardo Vincenzi, who's there in 9th position at the moment, and I think he'll be very happy with this 9th as he looks to push forward, and I think he's looking at freebies trying to move his way up through the field.
Beavis just hit the wall again coming into the pit lane. It's an easy mistake to do when you have a damaged car. That's why you have to be so cautious, especially on the brakes. It can snap at angles that you're really not expecting. And now Beavis is going to drop back, probably right back to the tail end of the field. And whatever the case, that is definitely his chance for significant results today. Being absolutely blown away, the Rookie Monsters team will be extremely annoyed with themselves. But whatever the case, Matthew Beavis hopefully will return to the race and try to salvage something.
Well, we were talking about that gap between Yativ and Risto Capit. It has come down in the last 5 minutes or so by half a second. So Yativ is reeling in. Risto Capit in the podium is not out of the question just yet. So Risto is still going to have to defend. And let's not forget that Hani Al Sabdi is back in 10th place. Not what AAA were thinking of here at the moment. And it looks more double A, single A from Hani Al Sabdi. The A, well, it's double A for the 2 A's in his surname, and it should be triple A for the A in the forename as well. But he needs a lot more than what he's got at the moment. He's stuck in 10th place and a mile off of anyone else because he's having to deal with the fact that he's spun twice. The tyres aren't the best in the world right now, probably flat spotted twice, and that's going to mean that effectively driving on square tyres is not as quick as driving on round ones.
Not as easy either, and every single time you brake, the car will be more likely to lock up. And rFactor 2 does simulate flat spots on the tyres. Those flat spots will effectively grip onto the road and will get larger every single time because the tyre will follow the path of least resistance and it'll want to stop in the same place every single time. So that's going to keep getting worse and worse. And as he goes down the straight, he'll be able to feel that on his steering wheel. Whoa, his Kazdorp gets very squirrely on the grass. But and he's off! Kazdorp's in the wall! Our leader's in the wall! Oh no! And he's got damage! Kazdorp has serious damage. The car is pulling to the right hand side as he goes down the straight, and that is exactly the type of mistake that Kazdorp could not afford to make. I'm not sure whether he's surely he can't afford to keep driving with his car that damaged, because it's going to be pulling and trying to drag him off the road. My goodness, what a mistake from Yuri Kazdorp. Pickle my spinach in a cat's stomach acid. He is going to be furious with himself.
He's off again, and this time he's just desperately getting to pit road. He had a 10-second advantage at the point in time where the contact hit, and just like that, Yuri Kazdorp could have just thrown the championship lead over to someone else. Caruso will take over as he dives down onto pit road. So Matteo Caruso leads, but Yuri Kazdorp, an unforced error, has cost him victory here today at Virginia, which has been absolutely ruthless as a track and has taken out driver after driver after driver. So now suddenly it is Caruso who leads, Capit second, Itamar Yativ up in third position, Jim Paris is fourth, and Enemed Simoncic rounding out the top 5. And I tell you what, Risto Capit will be smiling from ear to ear seeing that, because if things stay like this, he takes the championship lead, heading to the third round of the championship.
I'll tell you exactly what happened with Yuri Kazdorp there. It was as he got onto the grass, he kind of spun up the rear tyres, did manage to get it back under control again, but by that point, I think he'd completely lost his rhythm, lost his flow. He misjudged the next corner, touched some wheels onto the curb, onto the grass, and then into the barrier, and that is where he's got the damage that he's got. He's in the pits. Matteo Caruso leads the race, so it's still a Singularity car leading this race, but a different one now. That's put Capit up to second. Itamar Yativ amazingly up to third from 10th on the grid. Jim Paris is fourth, followed by Simončić, and Yuri Kazdorp is going to drop down to 14th, maybe even 15th position with this.
Yeah, it's heavy damage. Simon Marshall's going to go through, but the thing with Yuri Kazdorp is he's got to get around the track and make sure he gets laps in, just to make sure that he gets as many points as possible, if he even has that ability to go out there and get points, being so far down the order. But crucially enough, though, the lead at the front now is just 3 seconds for Matteo Caruso, who is pulling away from Risto Capit. That Mercedes is struggling because that gap has come down to the driver behind. It's under 2 seconds now for Itamar Yativ. For the first time in a very long time, having started 10th on the grid, middle of the pack, he's now looking at second position, maybe being a reality at this point in time. And a couple of seconds here or there does not change too much at this point in time. So how much are you going to be able to close that gap in? 1.7 now, the gap only for Yativ. He continues to chip away almost like a master craftsman here against Risto Capit.
VAR is absolutely racking up some kills so far. We've already had 6 retirements in this race. We've had 2 more lengthy more than 2 more lengthy pit stops, but 2 for instance, that we've seen. One for Beavis, one for Kazdorp. They both crashed in exactly the same corner in exactly the same way. And Kazdorp exits the pits now. He's going to be 14th. That is so disappointing. For the Singularity driver, and I don't think I've ever seen Kazdorp make a mistake quite like that when he was leading the race by 10 seconds, and that means that the gap for the lead is now right down to 3.2 seconds. That's a significant decrease, and with 23 minutes in the race, that could still change. I can barely believe what I'm seeing here at VAR. I was not expecting this amount of carnage since Silverstone was so clean.
Well, the crucial fact is Matteo Caruso increasing that gap still to Risto Capit, and that is the difference maker. Caruso is able to continue to extend that gap and keep this race in pocket and in favour. Keep an eye out 5th and 6th, because Simončić and Mrozek close to each other out on track, but I think that Mrozek will know that Jurnej Simončić probably is #1 driver at this point in time. As actually Itamar Yativ, I believe, has come down onto the lane. He has. Oh my goodness me. So dives down in as if he's short on fuel or something here, because all of a sudden Jim Paresis finds a podium out of this, and Yativ, who was mighty quick, maybe it could have been a fuel thing.
I wonder whether that's why he was so fast at the beginning of the race, because he was light on fuel. That makes a lot of sense. What doesn't make sense is why he did that, because surely he knew that he'd lost more time, he'd lose more time through pitting for fuel than he would by starting with a heavy car like everyone else. So I'd say that's a mistake there from Itamar Yativ, but it may also be that he didn't expect that anyone could make it to the end on fuel, and maybe he's right. So I have to see that towards the end of the race. I'm not saying I'm expecting everyone to run out of fuel in the last couple of laps or anything, but maybe the others are going to have to go significantly fuel savvy in the late stages of the race. But still, I can't help but feel that that's a big mistake from Itamar Yativ.
Back 10th position overall, so that's going to be a long way back, and he's got Ben Shapanek as the next vehicle to try and find a way by. So we'll see how that one plays out a little bit into future. Of course, there was a very good opportunity here for drivers to try and make moves and to gain those positions out on track, but very, very crucially indeed, it's still Caruso from Capit and then Jim Paresis there in 3rd position. as everyone, I think, believingly might have mandatory pit stops to do here in this one. So this is going to be a tough little challenge for everyone to try and make sure to get this one all the way over to the end. So Matteo Caruso in control, 3.6 seconds, and Capit now has 5 seconds to play with here over Jim Paresis. Enemed Simoncic then only 1.6 back, but crucially not falling back much further.
Of course, this is one of the first races, first race series that World Pro Racing has done without a mandatory pit stop. And the reason for that is because they knew it was going to be tight in terms of fuel. It's Ben Schupanek now pits as well. They knew it was going to be tight in terms of fuel. And they wanted to really test the driver's skills, test their fuel saving skills, while also testing their driving ability. So it's a unique challenge for the drivers, one that you don't get in many series. As often, if you get 1 hour races or longer, there's a mandatory pit window installed.
Well, these drivers know they've got 20 minutes left to go, and if the strategy card's got to be thrown out, you've got to make sure you do it quickly. And if there is a strategy card for Risto Capit to be looking at, you might just have to say, well, if I'm having to come down onto the lane, I'm worried about that undercut that's potentially going to be happening from Itamar Yativ in 9th place overall. That's something to worry about in case drivers do need to dive down onto the lane as late as they possibly can. So Caruso, though, still in control of this, and the battles here have seemed dried up a little bit out on the road. The closest 2 vehicles out on track is Riccardo Vincenzi, but he's next to a lap traffic vehicle overall out on track, and that, of course, is Matthew there in 15th position and 2 laps overall. So that the only real in terms of these battles, we do say that Simoncic and Morozek are there and close together and trying to but that last time by a 1/10 of a second going the other way. And in fact, Jim Paresis, I think, is reeling in Risto Capit at a rate of knots right now. Just 4 seconds overall. I think he's got some good pace here in the second half of this one. He might be able to close this down.
It was the second half of the race where he was really back at Silverstone. If you remember, he wasn't really challenging the top driver the final 20, maybe even 15 minutes of the race, and it looks to me as if he's having that sudden turn of pace now as well. May even catch up to the back of Capit. However, this time around, he doesn't have the advantage of Capit fighting with other drivers like he did back at Silverstone. So it's going to be harder for him this time around, but I'm sure he will be absolutely thrilled with a podium if he can hold it. However, the Audis are looking stronger than they looked at the start of the race as well. They're separated by about a second at this point in time, and look to be the Aston Martin ahead of them. They've got a 5-second advantage over Kiss behind them as well. It's
certainly is looking good as Jim Paresis now has to worry about what's behind him and what's in front as well. Off goes the rookie monster car there, and that will be the vehicle in 15th place. Matthew, that could have actually not. That was Simon Marshall, in 12th. It was running at the back. A start from the very, very back of the. Ultimately, a mistake by him has cost him quite a bit. Fortunately, not involving the leader, but very close in proximity to. So Caruso, very much a car wrapped in bubble wrap, trying to get by the lap track.
That was a bizarre mistake from Marshall. He just didn't steer. That's really weird. But whatever the case, around he went, and he's rejoined the circuit now. I wonder whether he had a pop-up on his screen or something. Hey, he just suddenly stopped steering, and that's what led to his big off. Anyway, back to the field. Yanni Simoncic has actually reeled in Jim Paresis. He's properly in slipstreaming range now, and it looks to me as if by the end of this lap, if he has a similar lap to last time around, he's going to be right in his game.
Yeah, I think he very well might, because Simoncic will take a couple of 1/10 of a second out as he will head to the next sector on track. The gap was 9/10 of a second between them, and I think that gap has certainly come down in slipstream in the toe, which is not really the best favoured here for the Audis to go through. Gap down now to just 0.8 of a second, so it continues to be chopped away. Jim Paresis under pressure, looks sensing behind that it is Simoncic closing, not catching Capit. So now all of a sudden, Enemed is thinking about, well, there's still a podium on the offing for me. How do I manage to get that? I've seen rivals struggle, and through sheer consistency, I'll try and keep myself in this championship fight. Seems that way. Podium chance coming along in the next few laps or so. The gap's down to half a second.
The gap down to half a second now between Paresis and Simoncic, as you said. It's going to be difficult for him to get on top of them through the opening sector. It's very technical, a couple of corners before it goes into some uphill sweepers. But then, of course, you have Oak Tree, and if you can get Oak Tree right, you've got a long straight, the back straight past Madison Avenue, and towards the roller coaster, in which to do a good old amount of slipstreaming and try to basically attach yourself to the rear wing of the car in front until you can afford to go for an overtaking maneuver. So that's what Simoncic is going to be thinking of now. He's going to be trying to set himself up for. Although we've seen that the Audi does tend to struggle a bit in a straight line, and it's the S's and the bends where he's going to be gaining that time. Now it's all about sticking with Paresis as they head along Madison Avenue.
Well, saying that, 0.5 of a second over that section is going to be tough to gain back then for Enemed Simoncic. You may just be waiting just a little, hoping that there are opportunities down the road to make that move, but there aren't many. We're only 14 minutes away and under from the end of this race, so I think all these drivers know a tough challenge to the end of this one as they continue to make all through the field. Simoncic looking at that third place, thinking, well, take two, I'll battle Jim Paresis, and it'll be a roles reversal, but across the line they go. Paresis has really responded over the course of that lap, has now got himself a 7/10 advantage. So all of a sudden, I believe Jim Paresis has got the hurry-up message at Edge Esports, and, well, come on, if you want to battle me, first, you got to catch.
He's under pressure here, sir. He's moving faster than was. Although also that means more chance of a mistake. Not that Jim Paresis is prone to mistakes or anything, because he is one of the most experienced drivers in the field. But just to show you how much he hurried up on that last lap, his lap, oh my word, 0.6 of a second faster than the lap before. That's really impressive for Jim Paresis. Simoncic tries to keep up. They've got a bit of lap traffic coming up as well. That's so hopefully they'll be able to get past him cleanly, safely. Simoncic sticking with Paresis, getting closer through Oak Tree. Got a much better drive through Oak Tree. Sorry, Simoncic there. And I was wondering a lap ago, because Marocek is only about a second behind them as well. If they both get closer to Paresis and kind of bunch up, and then Simoncic goes for the move, could Marocek maybe gain advantage and follow him through?
Depends what Avid Chronic Racing want to do, and I think that they know that Enemed Simoncic is probably their better option at this stage, and this depends on whether Marocek can close down that gap or not. He's had opportunity to go out there and attack in this race. He's decided not to use it out there at the moment. That's something very, very crucial to keep in mind, as the gap also between Paresis and Capit, and that included lap traffic being involved, comes down to 3.1 seconds. So here now in the final 10 minutes, Caruso in control, Capit second, Paresis third, but Simoncic trying to stay with and is not being shaken. Now 0.8 of a second. Paresis now is thinking, well, the best defense I think is a good offense, and that Aston Martin is probably the best at the moment here in terms of getting that offense going and trying to get something back here in this race to get back to.
Yeah, still they've got that Porsche ahead of them, who won't be getting blue flags just yet, but I'm sure that as soon as he does, he'll be diving out the way to let these two through. A good place to do it, of course, would be Madison Avenue. because then he doesn't hold them up, doesn't cause them to go shallow or wide into any corners. Here we go onto Madison Avenue now, and I think that Simončić is going to benefit more from this as they get the tow from the Porsche ahead. You see Paris flashing his lights, saying get out of the way now, because he doesn't want to have to go side by into the roller. Now Marshall gets out of the way. That was nicely done from Simon as they head towards. And Simončić is the closest he's been in a very, very long.
You bet he is. You bet you know it. And maybe this might just be the case here for Enemed to try and find that move. Sliding around then is Jim Paris trying to find as much grip as tires, and sliding's not going to help too much as now the very much on and not many laps. Go out there and to go and get it. Jim Paris has got to be looking in his mirrors, thinking, how am I going to shake Enemed Simončić, the Formula Sim Racing champion of 2019, here in this battle for the podium? No chance of making a move then. So they head through 2 and to turn 3 here of NASCAR Bend as they go through this big 90-degree left-hander. All the AstroTurf then for Simončić, who's using all of his road tack to try and find the move, and still nothing.
Still nothing, but they're back in the S's, and they both dip through the grass slightly. That's okay because of the inside, and we've seen a couple of people doing that over the course of the day. He won't lose too much time from that whatsoever. And you see Simončić there trying to cut the corners as much as he can do, and he is gaining on Paris here, getting closer up towards Oak Tree. And as they brake towards Oak Tree, Simončić surely has got to be setting up for a move. They are so close on the second apex. I believe that Paris would have got a slightly better run there, as Simončić had a tap on the brakes halfway through Oak Tree, but he's in the slipstream well and truly in the meaty part of that draft, and he's going to be on top of him here into the roller coaster.
He's going to try and do it around the outside, which gives him the inside for the roller coaster, so he's having to be brave on the brakes, and has he locked it up? He has, so Jim Paris gets it back, a lock-up on the brakes, and the chance goes begging for Enemed Simončić in the battle for the podium. So just like that, opportunity lost. Manifest more destiny, Enemed. You need to find a way back. Bit of grass on the exit there for Jim Paris, and the more that they scrap and battle, the more Mrožek will be brought into this fight, and crucially, if they bring Mrožek in, that's another vehicle to help Enemed Simončić out. 2 teammates to work together to try and freight train Jim Paris. Tough though, 8 minutes and under.
If Simončić had braked half a ruler length earlier, I have no doubt that he would have taken that position there. He just touched the grass and locked up, trying to avoid being sucked off, and that's why he went wide and lost the place again to Jim Paris. That's what you call the switchback for Jim Paris there, when your opponent goes slightly too wide and you use the advantage and duck underneath with more grip, more drive, and Paris knows that move well. He's been pulling it for years. However, Simončić is just as close, maybe even closer this time than he was last time around, and it's round 2. Ding, ding, ding. Simončić goes for it again.
May just have to as they get up on the brakes. South Bend and the Oak Tree then come along, and what does Simončić have this time? He knows he made the mistake a lap ago. He's got to do it though all over again in the draft, trying to pull this one back for a podium position at the moment, and this will probably be as far as you go, barring mistake, as they try and get in, as Vindis finds himself on the lane again, looking for the avenue there on Madison, but no chance this time for Enemed Simončić to get that done. Jim Paris was wise to the move, middle of the track driving, and said, Enemed, you're going to have to try and pull an absolute to go through. As Caruso comes down in onto pit road, which gives Risto Capit then the race lead with 6 minutes, as a missed box there for Caruso will not help matters.
Yeah, so Caruso's not going to make it, but the question now is, can any of the top 4? If they haven't pitted by now, I presume they believe they can make it. Oh, it's Simončić gone for the dive, and he's He's off! Simuncic very nearly spun there, touched the wheel onto the grass. It looked as if he was going to get looped around, and that means that Risto Capit leads the race now. But can he make it to the end without pitting? Matthew Beavers pits. It seems that some of these drivers just aren't going to be able to make it. They've slightly misjudged it. Surely, if you knew this was going to be the case, you'd have pitted earlier. So these are mistakes and not scheduled stops from the majority of these drivers, I believe. But now it's going to be so tense in the late stages because the top five are Capit, Parisis, Simuncic, Mrocek, and Kiss. None of them have pitted. Caruso has, and Caruso lost more time by missing his pit box. So even if Capit, Parisis, Simuncic et al. Have to pit, this may still be going away from Matteo Caruso. What drama here!
Wow, Caruso, has he lost too much there? He only missed the box by about a second or so. He had a good buffer over Risto Capit. It depends here late if you make the stop. The good news about pitting late is you only need to put a litre or two of fuel in to get yourself over to the end. And I think that's what drives the thinking about how late do you pit to get yourself the fuel and to get yourself out and going once again. That is, if everyone still needs to come down in and make that stop. Risto Capit rounds the final corner. He continues on. He's good for the moment, as is Parisis, as is Simuncic, as 5 minutes and under now comes up on the clock. Training was important. This track is a fuel mileage user. So many drivers getting it wrong, and Singularity, who are looking at a 1-2, are now looking at a 6-14, which is eye-wateringly bad by their perspective. So now all of a sudden, Risto Capit in firm control in the Mercedes, been saving the fuel. Jim Parisis there in second place for Edge, and third is Enemed Simuncic, still with a half chance to try and get it back. 4 minutes and under now on the clock. It's only 2 and a bit laps, but Simuncic flinging the car into every corner possible and losing so much time because of it.
This is almost like the race where no one wants to finish on the podium because we keep having top runners making mistakes or going off or just having general misfortune. Utterly dramatic here, and that means that Enemed Simuncic is on the podium now, and Parisis, of course, holds second place after that mistake from Simuncic as he tried to make a move. And I tell you what, that defense that we saw from Parisis a couple of laps ago into the roller coaster was absolutely masterful. He didn't let Simuncic get alongside him. He pulled over, and Simuncic had nowhere to go but the grass. But it wasn't an overly aggressive move from Parisis. It wasn't unfair. It wasn't like he forced him onto the grass because they didn't have an overlap when he moved over, and that is just prime judgment there from Jim Parisis, which is going to leave Enemed Simuncic absolutely frustrated with everything, and may have even led to the mistake that Simuncic made at turn 1.
So the big gainers are Avid Chronic and Edge, because Edge are 2-5 and 3-4 are Avid Chronic, as we have ourselves a good 2 or 3 laps to go in this race. Enemed Simuncic now in third. You got fourth Mrocek. Dan Kiss, though, is not safe in that 5th place. That gap is 2 seconds for Matteo Caruso, who will have the bit between his teeth trying to chase down this work. And if he can chase this down, Dan Kiss has to play ultimate defense for the team at the moment. And then this is going to be crucial in terms of talking championships for the potential future of this one. And only a couple of minutes left as Risto Capit now holds himself just a 2-second lead and probably choking everything out of the fuel tank to try and save. Jim Parisis closing down at a rate of knots. Now the race win could still be on.
As Yuri Kasdorp now pits, so more troubles for Kasdorp. He's not going to make it to the end. And of course, we saw that his Aston Martin teammate couldn't either. So is it that the Aston Martins aren't good at saving fuel? We'll have to see if Jim Parisis can make it here. Meanwhile, the championship as it stands, the top 5 teams are Singularity, followed by AAA, ACR, Edge, and Atlantic. But after this race, after this finishing order, I expect that to change quite significantly. Haven't got it completely worked out yet, but we'll have to give you an update on that You can. Well, there's going to be an article published on World Pro Racing's site in a couple of days, and there'll be information about it attached to that. So make sure you keep your eyes open for that. Meanwhile, Simončić is caught right up to the back of Jim Parise again as we head on to the final lap of the race.
We do. White flag lap then for Risto Capit. His lead 1.5 seconds only at the front of the field. A second chopped off. Over the course of this one, Jim Parise has to work so hard to get himself back in. Enemed Simončić there in third. For fifth as well,
slowing.
Caruso is through on Mrožek. Mrožek has dropped back 2 places. So David Mrožek is struggling at the moment. They're all struggling at the moment to get themselves through. How much is Risto Capit having to save that fuel at the moment? Jim Parise is trying to close this one down, as is Enemed Simončić, who is desperately trying to claw this now as they head through the S's section. Still, though, the gap 1.3 for Capit. He's clear at the moment as they go up through the S's towards the oak tree. We've seen mistakes here already today. They can't afford any more. Caruso on the recovery will not catch Dan Kiss unless there's some big issues on the final few sections. But Capit edging his way, nursing his way towards Sanctum as Jim Parise now is caught by Enemed Simončić. This is the last chance he has as he gets himself into the draft, and surely now it's a case of how much can you close through this section. Simončić, yard by yard, trying to bring this down like he's looking for a first down in an NFL game. Thinks about the move, but he's not close enough here at the roller coaster. The gap a second only, though, at the front of the field, but too little, too late, Jim. There's a chance of the hog pen coming, but Enemed Simončić, you'll have to lunge, but he's out of time and potentially out of road because Risto Capit will push his way over towards the line and survives the gauntlet to win here at VIR and taking the initiative in the championship lead over to Sebring. It's second for Jim Parise, third for Enemed Simončić, and Dan Kiss will pick up fourth. Edgy Esports having a fantastic day at the office. Caruso can only manage a position number 5, Vincenzi 6th, and crucially for AAA, Hani Al-Sabdi recovers to a 7th place finish overall after an appalling 2 spins by his standards, and really a case of a race where everyone needs to work out the fuel and everyone needs to work out how to stay on the island.
David Mrožek has driven the entire last lap with he's completely out of fuel now. He is completely out of fuel. He drove the entire last lap with his foot only just on the pedal, lifting and coasting like I've never seen before in my life. He's holding the clutch to try to coast to the flag. He may lose 10th place here to Ben Stupanek if he stops. I think if he coasts across the line, he's going to do it before Stupanek comes through. Yativ's just passed him for 8th and across the line, so Yativ 8th. Mrožek, it's all downhill for him now, so he is going to claim 9th position just. There he goes, although that was very, very tense for Mrožek in the end. Stupanek's going to be 10th, followed by Vindis, and then Marshall and Galère have already finished their 12th, and at 13th, the lap down, Karlstorp is going to be 14th, which will be hugely disappointing for him, and he's only got himself to blame for that. Matthew Beavis is just, well, he's spun after the finish line, so Beavis has already finished 15th as we see Vindis crossing the line to P11.
And this is the classified results then. Risto Capit in 35 laps picks up the win, 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second, and he wins by just 1 second overall come the end of the race over Jim Parise, but he had to fuel save hard over to the end. He had 3 seconds with 2 laps to go. He finishes with just 1. Enemed Simončić picks up the podium with Dan Kiss in 4th place overall. Matteo Caruso rounds out the top 5 with Ricciardo Vincenzi in 6th place overall. 7th place would go to Hani Al-Sabdi. Itamar Yativ had to pit early, was up on a podium, but ultimately 8th place is the finish. David Mrožek, out of fuel, finishes with 9th place with Ben Stupanek, rounding out the top 10. Further down the field, Martin Vindis, 11th for the Atlantic team with Simon Marshall, 12th. Galea, 13th with Yuri Kastorp. A 10-second lead wiped away to 14th place as he finishes the lap down. Matthew Beavis, the last of the finishers, 2 laps off the base. And a lot of retirements here today. Tiziano Brioni, Jan-Willem van Ommen, Marius Nicolai, Zoltan Schutte, Ibrahim Al-Mubarak. That there are the disasters, but Risto Capit joins us here in the commentary booth right now as we get to post-race interviews. Risto, well, it was a case of everyone go out there, make mistakes. Singularity had the race all but secured, but you managed to keep yourself on the island, keep yourself calm, and just like that, victory was all but secured.
Hello. Well, that was not easy at all. Well, Yuri also had probably a one-stop strategy, so we will never know what would have happened. But yeah, it was insanely tight on fuel, and the guys behind were catching up. And yeah, I spent a second half of the race just calculating and trying to keep it on track, and it was just enough.
How dangerous is it looking in the back of the mirror and you're seeing Jim Parisas and Enemed Simoncic closing that gap down and working to try and get themselves into position? Do you feel like if you were in a position where the two behind you weren't battling as hard, would you be put into a position where you felt like you would have had to have defended on that final lap?
Yeah, most likely. Although I ran out of fuel exactly over the line, so if they would have come, then they would have come past. So there was not much I could do. So in that sense, I was not like panicking. I was just keeping an eye on it. But yeah, it was. I put everything on the line with my fuel anyway. So I guess if they battled all race, then that was my luck.
Well, crucially, you take the championship lead. You head over to Sebring now as the next round of the championship. A very similar track in terms of bumps, but very different in the terms of asphalt to concrete. You have to deal with that change in dynamics in terms of track surface. How difficult is Sebring going to be as one of the marquee tracks when it comes to endurance racing?
Yeah, very interesting. Well, first of all, the track itself, most of us in the top know it well from the World's Fastest Gamer event, but it will be most interesting to see how the cars compare. Maybe Silverstone was weaker for the Mercedes. Now it was better because the weight ballast affects more in a track with slower corners and more uphills and so on. Plus the Sebring's even longer straights should suit the Mercedes. So you never know. Also, it will be a 2-hour race, so this will add like a third dimension to the strategy, so it will be exciting, big unknown.
Stops galore and everything else in between. Before we let you go, Risto Kapic, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank.
Well, it's the first win for the AAA esports team, so that's something, and everything sponsors related to it is to the team. So yeah, it's mainly for the team, and to get the lead in the team standings, that's the main objective, and that's the main thing we are happy about.
Well, happy is Risto Kapic. He picks up a race victory. Jim Parisas finishes off in second position overall, stood by with Caitlin Penny.
Yeah, Jim, an absolutely fantastic race for you. You were so strong in the late stages and you finished P2. Surely you're pleased with that.
Oh yeah, first laps of the race were like saving fuel. That was all I had in my mind. I knew that some other drivers would like to do one stop, so they will attack earlier in the race, but I had to keep my head cool and not risk taking any risks in battles. And later off, it paid off really.
Totally it did, but it was so close in the last couple of laps with Jenny on your tail, challenging you hard, but you put up a masterful show of defense. How did you do it?
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed that battle with the journey this time. I saw him like closing in the later stages of the race, although I passed him earlier in the race because he was a bit slower than I could do at that moment. There was no reason to be that slow. After that, I think he realized as well, and he pushed a bit more, so he caught me up. But defending from Yerny, it was really cool, really fun. I enjoyed driving, really cool moves from him, fair driving. So yeah, it was nice.
And finally, the next race is Sebring. Do you go well there?
I really don't know. I like to take every race step by step, so I will try my best and see what happens.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us, and good luck in the future race.
I want to congrats, of course, Risto for his win. Very close race.
Thank you very much.
Jim Parisas there finishing home in second position. Enemed Simoncic is stood by me. He managed to get third place overall. Enemed, let's start with opening laps because it seems to be a recurring theme. You're even joking about it before the start of the race. Your qualifying pace is out there and is fantastic, and of course, a chance to congratulate you on your Formula Sim Racing victory. But where was the pace in the opening laps? Something that you seemingly just can't get out of this Audi or something?
Yeah, thanks for the congratulations on the FSR. And about this car, I don't understand. I mean, I did constant lap times for the whole race. I could do the same pace, lap 1 and the last lap. I was using same fuel every lap. Okay, maybe a little bit more conserving in traffic in the first stint, and little less conserving when not in traffic in the end, but still the lap times were constant. It was not like I suddenly realized that I have to push, but for some reason everyone is 1 second faster in the first stint. I don't understand. But yeah, that's how this car is, I guess. I don't know, maybe it has programmed fuel tank on the roof or something. I don't have many words. Yeah, it was still a good race for the team until last lap, when unfortunately David had to. I don't know what happened to him. I mean, I know briefly what happened, but we have to observe the replay still to determine. I mean, at least myself. But that would be P3, P4, and I guess most points of any team. Not sure, but yeah, sadly that did not happen. Still a podium, not quite expected.
Well, a podium not quite expected. Of course, your teammate running out of fuel over to the final lap of the race, but mistakes galore from rivals up and down the field. You found yourself in a whole world of joy when the likes of Yuri Kasdorp and the others all had to come in and make stops because they weren't going to make it over to the line on fuel. Picking up places like that, maybe not the most gratifying or most rewarding in the world, but surely take as many points as you can heading towards Sebring and keep the title fight alive.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the Singularity guys. I think, is it Singularity? It is. Yuri and Caruso. I'm sure they both were on course for 1 stop, so they would be behind anyway. And yeah, it's always happy when you see someone losing place, even if it's really egoistic, but it's how it is. And about Sebring, I want to change the car if that's possible. I don't know, but Audi will be demolished there completely, I think.
Well, the Audi maybe not quite the best choice in the world over the course of 2 hours, but before we let you go, Enemed, shout out sponsors who gets it.
You caught me without words, but well, thanks for the team who was watching and celebrating my podium.
Good podium there for Enemed Simončić, caught a little bit with a cat's tongue, so to speak. But Caitlin, final thoughts as we close off proceedings tonight here at Virginia and move over to Florida as we think about Sebring.
Just an absolutely dramatic race. Putting that into an article is going to be a complete nightmare for me, but I'm looking forward to it nonetheless. I'm sure that you all at home enjoyed that as much as I did, because you cannot be bored with a race like that. I told you it was going to be tense. It was tense to the end with fuel saving and things. I should also point out that Yuri Kasdorp did manage to claim the 2 points for leading the most laps, and I'm not sure who got fastest lap, but that's also worth an extra point towards the championship. So we'll see how that works out when we get the official results. But for now, thank you for watching. What a race we've just seen.
Well, we certainly have. Of course, you get 2 points for being fastest, 2 more points for being fastest. Then by being the fastest, you get an extra point as well. But a massive thanks. We close the curtains then here at Virginia. A massive thanks, of course, to this series being sponsored and powered by Enemed, and of course, sponsored by Gaming Malta, Visit Malta, and Melita as well. Of course, you've seen on rFactor 2 for World Pro Race GT3 Masters. A massive thanks, though, to the partner on my left-hand side, Caitlin Penny, the man behind the cameras, Justin Mifsud, our race director, of course, Adrian Fagayo, and, of course, George Muscat, who's been fantastic over in the stewarding booth. But that is all we have time for. It is delight for Risto Capit as he picks up his first win of the season. But Sebring produces a different challenge. Sebring is where the bumps, the battle, and all on concrete seems to be the case. Who makes their concrete case, though? That is a question to be answered in the near future. So long, and we'll see you at Sebring. The World Pro Racing GT3 Masters is fueled by Enemed and supported by Melita, Gaming Malta and Visit Malta.
Aħna saħħalsulhom il-fuel. Ara ġej.
Wara ftit ġranet kellna rebbieħ ieħor fil-logħba tagħna kontra 30 sekonda bil-maqlub.
Suqu fuq ir-riserva xejdu le mhix se tieqa'.
Il-ġimgħa d-dieħla nkunu fuq pompa tal-Enemed oħra nagħtu xi ħaġa oħra.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Okay, we proceed to the start.